Well, welcome to those of you that have joined. We're going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to hand it over to Valeria for our language justice statement and to turn that on.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Valeria. I'll be repeating this message in English in just a moment. Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Valeria de parte de Community Language Co-op. Primeramente, quiero darle las gracias por priorizar la equidad de salud a través de la justicia del lenguaje. Queremos que todos puedan participar completamente en el idioma de sus corazones o el idioma con el que más se sientan confortables. Les voy a pedir, por favor, que si van a participar el día de hoy, lo hagan en voz alta y claro, ya que estaré interpretando de manera simultánea. En un momento, nuestros líderes de la reunión van a prender la interpretación para esta reunión. Van a ver un globo en su pantalla. Solamente tienen que seleccionar el idioma que quieran escuchar. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Valeria. Thank you so much for having me. I'm here with the Community Language Co-op. I first want to thank you all for prioritizing health equity through language justice. We really want everyone to be able to fully participate in this meeting and being able to use their language of their hearts or the language that they feel most comfortable with. I do ask that if you are participating today, please do so in a loud voice, as I will be interpreting simultaneously. In a moment, the leaders of our meeting will be turning on interpretation. Once they do that, you'll be able to find a small globe at the bottom of your screen. You'll be able to switch and select your preferred language. If you do have any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat or bring it up to our host, as I will not be able to speak into the general room. Okay, thank you so much. Whenever you're ready.
You bet. Interpretation has been turned on. So if you would please go down and select your language. Okay. And if everyone is ready to go, I'm going to go ahead and begin our welcome. Just a few quick introductions. My name is J.R. Giron. I am the Advocacy and Grassroots Advisor at First 5 Nebraska. I'm going to assume that most of you are already familiar with First 5 by your very presence here, which again, welcome to all of you. And a quick introduction to the team I work with. Mike Feakin is our strategic relationships. He's kind of our economic development and business relationships guru. So he and I are partners in crime out in the communities. Another staff person joining us is Mike Medwick. He leads our strategic communications team and is behind a lot of the branding and creation of the PLA materials. And another fun and partner I'm excited to have on, and you will hear from her later, is Nicole Looper. Nicole is an alumni of the program and has been active in building movements and creating momentum. So you will hear from her in a little bit. I do want to kind of review the goals of this meeting. It's pretty straightforward. We're going to be looking at the elements of the coming program, what to expect in the application process, the real requirements as well of your attendance, the expectations around coursework, and just some of the logistical details. At the end of that, we will have a question and answer period. So if you do have a question, I'm going to ask you to hold on to it until the end. And I am now seeing, thank you, Feakin. Amanda Felton is our office manager. She's also joining this call. I'm excited she's on. Amanda is the brain and the hands behind all of the organizing elements. She'll be working with participants on lodging, reimbursements, handling all of those pieces. So a great deal of our PLA team is on the call, and I'm excited for you to meet everybody. So I wanted to give you a little bit of the background of the Policy Leadership Academy. So this was the brainchild that came across as a collaboration between First 5 and the Communities for Kids initiative. It was also the brainchild and supported by the Buffett Early Childhood Fund and their chair, Jesse Rasmussen. And so out of this came the idea and the desire to really impact the conversation around early childhood education, childcare in particular, in spaces where decisions were made, and really with an eye towards impacting and influencing public policy. At the time, it was still sort of a new conversation at the policy level. There were some pieces that had been well discussed, but in really trying to create some momentum and have meaningful conversations with legislators, the Policy Leadership Academy was born. So the first class was in 2019. Formerly, in the first two classes, the participants were restricted to those who were part of a Community for Kids community. And so all of the communities were expected to have two people from their team participate in PLA. Starting in 2021, we opened the application process to anybody in the community that was interested in being a part of the influencing structure at the public policy level, and then began to recruit just from a broader perspective and cross-sector as well. So as we've kind of moved through, we had the class in 2019 was class one. Class two also met largely virtually. And then because of the COVID epidemic, the PLA took a year off before resuming then in 2021. So some of the big milestones to hit on, there have been many wins and exciting things to talk about with PLA. But the first to really mark too is how we shifted along with the move towards opening up the application process. We shifted really from keeping it focused on those in a very specific situation, specific sector, talking about things like brain science and really the why we would advocate for early childhood, why early childhood matters, to tacking on to that, how to advocate in multiple spaces around early childhood issues. So the curriculum has shifted along the way from sort of becoming an expert on why it matters to how do you create a movement in your community that's going to really change the public conversation and the values around early childhood for all alumni going forward. Another milestone that was added to this was 3 years ago, as I guess it's been 4.5 now, when Sarah Howard came on as our policy advisor. We also added some elements for maternal and infant health. And so we've seen and been very excited to welcome public health officials, pediatricians, nurses, and mental health leaders who are all tied into those causes and those issues. Along the way, too, in the last 3 years, we have seen some key initiatives being moved by our advocates and some of our alumni. And so along that is the support for the current tax credit campaign. I'm sure some of you have been following that or participating in helping to lead that. And so as we've been doing that, oh, and look, my screen changed. Sorry, team. There we go. You'll see that they've been a big part of messaging for that, as well as seeing some coalition building happening in various areas across the state, particularly in places where there were maternal health gaps or childcare gaps. And they've been building coalitions that are cross-sector, bringing in multiple voices, multiple perspectives in order to create some structure in their own level, but then also to influence legislators and have meaningful conversations that would help move those things forward. So that's been the big overarching view and milestones there. So I want to give you a peek into the coursework overview. There is quite a bit that goes into this, but you'll see how all of these pieces really connect. So to begin, PLA is comprised of 5 different meetings There are 3 in-person meetings, one day at the Capitol and a virtual meeting. So after learning from, as we elevate the program and sort of get our feet underneath us even more, we've really decided to center all of our in-person meetings as close as we can to the middle of the state, but it makes it easier for people to plan and for us to be able to accommodate everybody. So our October and November workshops will be held in Kearney. We take a break for December because we all know how busy we get in planning for the holidays and family. And then January will be a virtual meeting, also to accommodate the Nebraska weather. February will be our day at the Capitol. And then in March, we're back in Kearney for our meeting. So as we're looking at this, the big picture level too is that there are building assignments as we go, and they're all tied to the curriculum pieces. So even before the first meeting, there is a pre-course assignment. This is not too heavy of a lift, but really it's designed for participants to do some exploring around their why and their values around advocacy, and to really pull back and get kind of a Google Earth view of effective advocacy movements, kind of taking advocacy and the conversation around policy impact from an event rather to a project or to a longer journey, and realizing that there's quite a bit that goes into it, and being able to answer some questions and orient ourselves to really what it means to be a movement builder. As you will see too, as we get into the actual workshop content a little bit more, one of the final outcomes of this project is to create a capstone. And we'll begin at the very beginning of the workshops. It's one of the first things you'll hear about. And it's going to become something that you can devise, imagine, begin to create, and tie into the things that you're learning. So basically, it's a way to put into practice the things that we're having conversations about, and in a way that is specific to your community or to your issue, and then to build that out ideally as you leave the program. And so the capstone project is a relatively new, this is the second year we're doing it in its entirety. And we've seen some amazing initiatives and projects come out of that, that piece of the work. So as we move into this curriculum, the workshops are all based on one level foundational idea, and then we build on them as we go. So at the first workshop, we really do begin with something as easy as defining advocacy and really moving beyond sort of the cultural pickup ideas that we've gained through that, and how to dive into that in a way that is going to create automatic frameworks for what it means to be an advocate. We'll talk a little bit more about data, how to find it, how to build a compelling narrative that you can back up with research and science in order to create a movement, and how to apply that then to the project that you're working on. One of the great things that you'll find out about PLA, and this is the first workshop where you will discover that, is that we bring in quite a number of amazing expert speakers and people that can really bring to you the elements and the knowledge that is going to best equip you to build a full movement and something that's going to be sustaining and lasting, and that then you can pass on to the advocates and the leaders that you raise up. And you'll discover that in the first workshop when we do bring in actually another First Five teammate. We bring in Dr. Katie Bass, and the second half of that day is dedicated to understanding the landscape, both from different demographics perspective, but also then how to build that into a case. So workshop number 1 really begins with a bang. It does have an orientation dinner the night before, and it's a chance to get to know your classmates, for us to get to know you, and then for us to get up and be ready for the big lift and kick off the next morning. Workshop number 2 is where we really start to build into those levels of movement building. So we look at the multiple structures of local leadership, whether they're municipal, county level, but we also take some time to pull back and figure out what is the local infrastructure that supports or challenges the work we're trying to do. And then how do you craft a narrative around that? Who needs to be on your team? We really dig deeper into that idea of, okay, now we're starting to build some social capital, and here's how we're going to do the work further. The really great thing about this too is for all of you, when we're in the room together, you can see how it is not a one size fits all. Advocacy has to be crafted and refined and adaptable to the situations you're in. So in this workshop, we can really look at all of the various and unique places that are raising up advocates in Nebraska, and then how to craft your work around that and lead to something powerful that you can actually create in your own area. And so building on that, we go into workshop number 3, which is influencing policy at the statewide level. So here we do learn a little bit more about those bigger civic structures. This is where we do kind of an overview on how the legislative system works, how policy is designed and created. We give access to all of our policy advisors who have a vast and amazing just group of experience in doing this work at multiple levels and in various entry places for the process. But then we also start to take that and figure out how, again, we build up from those first 2 workshops into our goal for impacting at the statewide level, and really taking apart what are the obstacles and challenges we need to anticipate, and then also where are things moving in our favor. And you've already done such a good job of building out that social capital and political goodwill. And so we take that information and we take it to a legislative day at the Capitol, where we really do take some time to practice what we preach and engage with our legislators, but also just to pull back and watch the process happen in real time right in front of us. It is an awe-inspiring and beautiful thing. I am a huge fan of the unicameral and of democracy as a whole when it works. And you'll learn more and more how excited I can get about that process. And I am certain that you will be too by the end of that. But then we can also really focus on having those legitimate and intentional and purposeful conversations with lawmakers and influencers around these issues that we've elevated, and really talk to your own elected representative too, and especially having taken the time to build out your local landscape and be able to speak to your unique and specific community. And then at the last workshop, the day is dedicated to you, to the participants. You do a presentation on your capstone project. You will lay out your entire strategy and template. You'll talk about what your big dream is, what your short-term goals are, and how you're going to build out on that. And that whole day is tons of fun. It's very illuminating. And at the end of that day, we have a formal graduation dinner where we will celebrate your accomplishments. We will recognize all of you who have made your way through this program, and you officially become a graduate, and we have a ceremony there to honor you. So that is a big picture overview of the coursework that you're going to go through with PLA. There are a few expectations and agreements that we ask you to enter into as part of the Policy Leadership Academy. The first is that attendance is required at all meetings. So as an element of your participation, as a requirement for your graduation from the program, we do ask that you are present for each and every meeting. So obviously we want to take into account that sometimes things happen that are far beyond our control. We would ask you to use discretion and prioritize family, of course, and those kind of crazy acts of God that can sometimes happen. That being said, we would also ask you to recognize that this is a very important thing, that your agreement in this means that aside from anything catastrophic, you will be in attendance at all meetings and recognize that it's a requirement for graduation. So the dates for the meetings are actually on our website. You can find them there. And they begin in October, as we've said. And you can mark all of those on your calendars right now. I actually had them on here and then realized that I had them incorrectly. So I would rather point you to the website than give you bad information. A few things to know about travel, though, is that we do provide lodging for you. We will put you up in a hotel that is close to our venue, if not at the venue itself. So we will provide lodging. All of your mileage will be reimbursed at whatever the current IRS level is for that. And then you will have breakfast and lunch provided, and as well as snacks, because if any of you are like me, I cannot learn without snacks and caffeine. They're a requirement for my brain to function. So those things will all be provided. Amanda does a great job too of accommodating any dietary needs or any work accommodations that we need to take into consideration if you are chosen as a participant in the program. The coursework hours, we do ask you to invest purposefully and intentionally in the days of the workshop, obviously, but then for those times in between, as we do work on our capstone projects, as we do ask you to put specific things into practice as you go. And so between each class, each workshop, it's anticipated that you'll spend 4 to 6 hours on your coursework over the course of that month. So that will be working specifically on the strategy that we lay out as we go. There will be some reading. Sometimes and occasionally there's a short video to watch or some recommended listening. Coming into your pre-work before the course begins, there is a little bit of light reading, and then probably 2 to 3 hours of intentional work, which would include the reading or any watching or engaging with resources that we send to you. So just know that that is part of it. It is not just simply attending the workshops. We're going to really ask you to put things into practice and to start building out on your project from workshop number 1. So the other expectation and agreement, simply because I feel that it's always important to reinforce, is that we ask and expect our participants to show up prepared, to have done that work, that coursework, to have done any kind of reflection or gathering of input or news before they come to the course or the workshop for that day. So when you show up, you're ready to go. There's no need to reflect or rehearse or review where we've been in the past beyond what we would do at the beginning of the workshop. And then, and this one is this is a high value of mine personally, and I also think it's what makes individuals very good advocates. We expect and ask that you come fully prepared to engage. So the course is designed to be somewhat interactive. There are going to be moments where we work together as a group. There's going to be a lot of questions posed that I will ask you to engage with. Any of the alumni on this call will tell you that I frequently say that I do not ask rhetorical questions once we're standing in the room together. So it's a way for us to brainstorm and to learn from each other. It's also a way for us to stay engaged and to kind of define and explore our own answers and our own values as we do the work. So my highest value, though, as an advocate and as a facilitator, is that participants come curious. We are all experts in the thing we are experts on. I have been doing this work in the advocacy sphere and also in the gosh, I don't even know what words we would use for it now. The equitable community engagement sphere for almost 25 years. And I find that I still have things to learn and that I am still prompted and encouraged and inspired by people who are doing the work alongside me. So that is an expectation that you come in curious and ready to learn from each other and ready to go along the way and put some of those things into practice. So an overview of the application process. you'll see that we're already putting out information, letting people know that the application window is coming up, where they can find more information. And that window will officially open on May 5th. So we have a sort of long application window here to allow as many people as possible to find the time to apply. So that window will run from May 5th and it will close on July 17th. Along the way, here are some of the things I want you to anticipate because some are new. And as we've said, the program has been evolving and growing to the point that now we need to be even more specific and intentional about our application process and how we are able to invite people into the space. So a couple of these are new to the PLA alumni on the call that might be surprised by some of this, but there is an online application that you will be able to find through our website starting May 5th. And it's a series of open-ended questions, mostly. There's a handful that will help us accommodate you should you be chosen as a participant. But I want to encourage anyone who's going to go online to apply to really be thoughtful about your responses. These applications do weigh in heavily on the decisions that are made about who will participate and who will not. And so it's worth taking the time to be thoughtful with your application. And again, it's all done online. And afterwards, if there's anything you feel needs to be tweaked or changed or added, we will find a way to let that happen for you. As part of the process too, there's a couple supporting elements that you will need to bring along. And one is that you will need to prepare and show or present and show a letter of recommendation. And this can come from somebody that is in your professional sphere or network, somebody that's worked with you in the past. It can be somebody that's had a chance to view you at work in the community or can speak to your values, your work ethic, and that can really shed some light on how you would be a valuable asset to the program, but also speak to your ability to handle the coursework and stay engaged with that. Another supporting element that will be required is an agreement letter from your employer to participate. Now, this might not apply to all of you. Some people are self-employed or work independently. But for those of you that are employed in a more organized, in an organization or in a more structured environment, we do ask that you bring a letter, which we provide, that your employer can sign off on, saying that they understand that you're participating in this program, that these are the dates of the workshop, and that your attendance is required at the workshop, and that they are giving you the thumbs up to do that and participate. So those are two of the big supporting elements. And then after all of that, we will, after we have all of the applications turned in and the supporting documents also turned in, then we'll be hosting a series of interviews for those that have made it to that next round of the application process. So those will be done over Zoom, and it will Feakin and I will be a part of those interviews, as will likely our deputy director, Elizabeth Everett. So nothing too stressful, but definitely a space for us to explore a little bit more about what excites you and what you are most eager to learn and to bring to the work and to the process. After that is all said and done, acceptance letters are sent out on August 4th. And you will, if you receive that letter, you have a week to confirm your participation, and then we move on from there. So the application process is actually pretty straightforward, but there are a number of necessary elements. And again, you can go to our First Five website, and under advocacy, there is a page specifically dedicated to Policy Leadership Academy. All of the dates will be on there, but it'll also walk you through these elements of the application process. I'm going to turn it over here to Nicole in just a moment, but while she gets ready, I want to frame a couple things for you. This program is intensive, it does really ask us to break apart some of what we know or have come to expect about advocacy, particularly as that landscape continues to shift and change. What worked in the 60s and 70s worked great. What worked in the 90s and the early 2000s when I was beginning worked great. And we've had to become flexible and agile as we do it. So, some of the big goals of this program are that you have the necessary, crucial, fundamental skills to build a movement, but that then you also have sort of a built in process for learning how to pivot, how to be flexible, how to adjust accordingly. And one thing that is positive also that comes out of this is upon graduating, you become a Policy Leadership Academy alumni. And the expectation in that is that you stay engaged both through the variety of our the efforts that we provide for alumni, which we will talk about a little bit later, but also it puts you inside of a network of people who are also doing the work all across the state. And it gives us a great place to bounce ideas off each other, to learn from what's working or not working in communities like ours or adjacent to ours. And it gives a really safe space too for us to stay encouraged when the winds don't come as fast as we'd like them to, or when the landscape gets particularly heavy. So I did want to set Nicole up a little bit and tell you about her. Nicole Looper is, I'm going to actually have her tell you a little bit about who she is, where she is from, and what she's working on. But Nicole was part of our PLA Class 3. She was in the first PLA class that I was able to facilitate and teach, and was just a standout member of that class, and then has gone on to be a very active alumni. The girl has receipts to show about things that she has made happen in her community, along with her team of other PLA alumni. And so I wanted her to get on the call to talk a little bit about her experience um, participating in the program, particularly in its early iteration, and now having been a part of the network as it's continued to evolve. But then also I want her to speak both to, and she and I have chatted about this offline, not even in regards to this call, but the experience of participating in the program. And then also, and I think one of the biggest resources coming out of it then is her experience as an alumni that continues to participate both in the network, but then also to put into practice the things that she was able to learn at PLA. So, Nicole, I'm going to open it up to you and let you tell the people a little bit about where you are and what you are doing.
So first and foremost, thank you so much for the introduction, and thank you, First Five, for just allowing me to have an opportunity to be a part of PLA. Please consider it. I am going to tell you that when I first applied, I was very curious and just looking at. So I am from Omaha, Nebraska, born and raised from the heart of North Omaha. I work in the community that I serve, and very honored to work in the community that I serve. And so I have noticed that in the early childhood world, let me go back. I am Nicole Looper. I work at Nelson Mandela Early Child Development Center. I'm an executive director there, and I love community work. I can tell you that in being a part of an early childhood network or field, community, and getting to know family, getting to know scholars and their families, and then also knowing the community that you're serving in. And so I did get a chance to serve in a multitude of different communities, but my passion is definitely my own community in North Omaha. Okay, so when I got a chance to just understand, there was an opportunity to be a part of the Policy Leadership Academy, I was very curious because I was just really just in awe of. There's a lot of things happening in our community, but we're at the tail end of it, and we're just really accepting everything that comes with something like the policies and the rules and things like that. And so I got a chance to talk to a colleague, and she introduced me to the concept of, hey, you should apply for First Five. And she kind of gave me a little bit of information about the Policy Leadership Academy. And I said, hey, I would love to do that. I would love to understand how to create bills, where bills are created. You know, how can this, like, how can I have a voice in supporting things that come in our community, and then also making sure those that are in our community have a voice as well. And so we got a chance to, well, I got a chance to learn so much from PLA. I can honestly say that I thought I knew, but I had no idea until I went through PLA. So I am very thankful for the opportunity to be a part of it. Sitting with senators, sitting with community giants, as I would say, that are also doing the work in the community, but then also having a voice to kind of continue that work. I will not um, I will not go on without saying it takes a team to do the work that we're doing, and especially I have to shout out the team that we're working with now that is a part of the work that we're doing currently, and that's Robert Patterson, Thelma Sims, Aisha Ron, in addition to Tierra Harper, and so we are currently trying to gain the work of just understanding the voice of our communities in the North and South Omaha areas. And what does that look like? It means talking. It means getting together with the experts in our field, and that's, you know, childcare providers, owners, parents, anyone that's in the early childhood area that has a huge influence on how, you know, the things that they would like to voice. And so we're giving them that platform to talk through that. Um, we started, I could tell you, it's been a while since like how we got here is it's been a while since we got a chance to really sit down and talk. But when I remember my first capstone project, it was definitely looking at the healthcare insurance for early childhood professionals. And I believe it was LB 838, I believe. And so I can still kind of remember it a little bit. It did not pass, but the idea is still out there. And so when I tell you, having that opportunity to learn about the different bills and then going back into the community and sharing, hey, this is what's coming up. If you would like this is what we need to do together to get this bill passed. We have to talk to our senators. We have to invite them in. We have to do so many different things. And I could tell you that the interest was great in our North Omaha area, because there were like a lot of childcare owners and providers were like, okay, where do we need to do? What do we need to sign? At that time, Ms. Thelma Sims was able to come and testify on behalf of that bill. So it was really good. Um, in addition to that, it's now led us into some other work of how do we make change with DHHS. Now, some of you in your own communities have like some little things that you would like to see changed in DHHS. And what we have started to do is really recognizing what are some of those changes, and then how can we make some action or some action plans to kind of help support those change. And we're not trying to say like we're just taking down the system of DHHS. We're definitely trying to figure out how can we partner to understand how can we make some changes that are going to not only benefit, you know, families and children, but then also owners and also those that are working in the field that are helping families in the community. Because as you all know, there has been a number of things that have changed as far as transportation, the way we are looking at the way we're looking at just the communication that's going out to families and or to I'm trying to think. I'm catching a brain freeze in the middle of the afternoon, but to families and also providers when we're thinking about some of the languages that are spoken in our community. So there were a variety of different things that we can definitely tackle. But when I tell you it's like not a one person job, it's definitely a community job. And so I look at it as um, a person that is on fire for a change because this is one thing that I could tell you with PLA. You're with like-minded people. You're wanting to create these changes for your own communities. And so when you get some like-minded people to say, listen, we got to make some changes, you bounce ideas off of each other. You do so many different things that kind of supporting the work and also serving, I say serving our communities at best. So I wish I could go all down everything that we're doing, but I can tell you that I am just a part of a great team, and we have actually a community call today, just looking at so I don't even know how to even start. Like, where do I go? So we started off with uh, providers, owners, and just having conversations again, like I mentioned before, and trying to get some just voices of understanding what we need to do to make sure that we're capitalizing on some of the strengths and also some of the barriers. And then now we're tackling where are these barriers and how can we make some action plans happen. So several months have gone by where we've held certain meetings in addition to having different speakers come, and we're jotting down all these great things of figuring out how to make an action plan. And we're doing this action plan together. So it's not something that the team is doing. We're all doing it together. And then last month, something phenomenal happened is when we now invited families to be a part of this conversation. So now families are a part of this conversation and we're all saying the same exact thing. So we are now putting everybody together and figuring out how can we best support the work, especially in our North and South Omaha communities, and making sure that we are supporting the cause of helping address some of these barriers or issues in our community. And then this Saturday, we are helping with those stapled trailblazers. That's what we call the parents and also some of the providers that and owners that have already applied for it. So some of those trailblazers, now we're asking them to come and sit down with senators and just have conversation about that. So the work is not done yet, but what I can tell you, it is something that I always get excited about. Of course, I'm extra busy at my job, but this is a bonus for me and a gift to be a part of something so phenomenal in helping our community get to the next level. So I don't know how much time I have, but I don't know if you wanted to ask questions or if I left something out, please feel free to chime in, JR.
No, that was great. And we're gonna let them ask us any questions they want here in a minute. As you can see, Nicole is very inspiring and has a great story. So that's part of why I wanted her to be my partner on this call today. Also, so that I can show her off as somebody that has really taken hold of the foundations and fundamentals of good movement building and good advocacy, effective advocacy, and has put them into play and has things to show for it. And they're all things that you would learn in the program. And she alluded to all of them. Knowing a plan, knowing what you want your desired outcomes to be, being able to pivot or be agile with how you get there. One of the things that thrills me about the work she's doing too is that she is doing it in a team. That team she named are all also PLA alumni, but then they continue to build out their team and have involved other early childhood educators, parents, and they have gotten expert recommendations too from, I mean, Feacon's even been an expert for them on various things that you need those relationships to build out, whether it's along municipal leadership or economic engagement, right? Really explaining that bottom line to people. They have all done such a good job with that. And then as they get a win, they continue to build out on that dream and really understand that there's a ladder process involved here. And they are great collaborators. You will hear in PLA that part of it is that we all work from our expertise, and that what's powerful is when those all come together. And they are all experts on their community. They're all experts on the issues, and yet we collaborate. I support them in the ways that I can. They have other systems and groups that support where they can, and they are leading the way but also naming and raising up other leaders as they go. So I am thrilled with the work they're doing, and I'm excited to watch it and to be a part of it. So she's been out of the program now for almost 4 years, right? And has been busy and active the entire way and has already accomplished some really good things. And I think they really are on their way to changing policy. And I'm excited to partner with them in that. So we have a little bit of time left, and I was wanted to open it up to questions, and it can be about the practicalities, some of those details, because I know those matter when it comes to participation. Questions about accommodations, about the content of the curriculum or the program. You can ask Nicole any questions you like about her experience, both as a participant and then as an alumni in the work they're doing. And since we do have Fekin on here, who he is one of the experts that will come in and speak, and he understands the economic landscape and works a lot to help build out those strategic partnerships for advocates. And then Mike Medwick is also on to answer any questions about communications and how we at First Five will support you as an alumni or throughout the program. So you're welcome to drop your questions in the chat or just come off mute and go ahead and ask, and we'll answer any, as best we can, any questions that you might have about the process, about participation, or posting or post-program engagement.
All right, we have our first question. How many people are accepted?
Ooh, oh, that is a good question. My notes got soaked by my lunch, team, so I'm counting on you to ask the questions that'll help us answer. So in the past, it was sort of a however many they could accommodate, and then we limited it to 25. And I think as we're elevating the program even more, we are going to restrict this class to between 15 and 20 participants. It is a competitive process, so I want to encourage you to really be engaged and thoughtful. We on average get between 70 and 80 applicants.
So it is not something that you want to wait until the very last second to fill out the application.
No, definitely not something you can do in a day. I also am an 11:59 p.m. kind of person, so I just need to give you the heads up that this will require a little bit more time and intentionality.
What are some of the key components that they're looking for?
Hi, April. That's a great question. I think some of it comes down to the key components would be what are your goals and dreams, both as a leader and an advocate, but then also for your community. How do you see your specific skill set adding to the statewide narrative, right? And we do a little bit of leadership development, but also we are counting on those of you that are leaders and have leadership skill to come in. So in the application process, we want to see you highlight that a little bit, as well as your desire to grow as an advocate leader and a community leader. So those are some of the big ones, and just the desire to collaborate cross sector, because that is the most effective advocacy.
And I would say, as far as oftentimes depending on the population or like the demographics of where you're coming from, community can mean a lot of different things. So it doesn't necessarily need to like be in an entire, city limits, or, it is really what you define as your community.
Exactly. In fact, we have two PLA alumni who work, their capstone project they are still working on it. And it's to specifically support Spanish speaking providers. And they really helped launch a movement around that. And that's their community, Spanish speaking providers. And they're continuing to do work in that community, even though it's all across the states. I'm letting the awkward silence do its thing. April.
I have another question.
Yeah.
I kind of glanced at the dates really quick, and I don't think that there would be a conflict, but I do travel for work a lot, and I'm required to be there for conferences. Some are internationally, and none of them are here in Nebraska. They're in other states. And so if some of the time conflicted, would I not be able to apply?
You could apply, but you would have to commit to the dates if you were accepted. And again, one's virtual, which is kind of nice. And
Hmm.
then there's none in December.
Okay.
And we have had people apply and then find out. I mean, one found out she was pregnant, and one did have a job, the conference, a week-long conference. And so don't let it keep you from applying. It will just mean that it'll have to be negotiated at the end when you sign your participation agreement.
Okay.
I also want to encourage you, if you can think of anyone that would be a great applicant or candidate. Our alumni come from all over the state, but also all different sectors. Obviously, because of Feacon's engagement and connection, we have a number of alumni that are economic developers or people that are specifically working with industry leaders. We've also had people come from municipal level leadership, and as of the last two classes, have had some great public health and nurse participants, along with our early childhood educators, of course, and some of our the partners that work around the issues with us. All right. Last chance, team.
Hey, JR.
Yes, sir.
Not a question, but more of a comment. As somebody who's seen a lot of PLA classes come and go, one of the things that really strikes me about this group is that people come into the program and they're energized when they leave. I have seen folks develop relationships, good working relationships, collegial relationships with one another that have lasted well beyond their time in the program. They work hard, they have a lot of fun, and there's just a lot of energy in the experience overall.
I agree. Yeah, also said that far more succinctly than I could. That is one of the great benefits too of being an alumni is you do have a network. And as you enter the program, one of the goals is to develop relationships, and sometimes just for that support, sometimes for professional reasons. But building those personal connections is a high priority for us that help to facilitate this for you. And Nicole's a great example about how those relationships coming out of it can continue to impact and encourage. All right. Well, I am going to actually, before we move on, let me just show, it's not going to do it now. You can find out more information on our website at first5nebraska.org. As I mentioned, there's a tab on the navigation bar that says advocacy. And under that, you will find a page dedicated to the Policy Leadership Academy. There is a QR code that once the applications open on the 5th, you can do that and then still find out more as it evolves. And then my email there is also on the slide. If the question comes to you after this call is over, or if you weren't comfortable asking it in the open space, you can email me, and I'm more than happy to answer your questions, or to also connect you with an alumni in your area to find out more about their experience or about what they're working on. Again, the goal is always to impact policy and create a different public narrative, and to do that in collaboration with others. But as Nicole is an example of, those big impact policy wins happen, but also sometimes there can be wins facilitated at various levels of administrative or municipal or community levels. So I'm happy to connect you with somebody. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. Um, Everybody on this call I know is busy and a fantastic professional deep into your day. So it's wonderful that you took the time. I appreciate you showing interest. And please do feel free to reach out. Obviously, too, we recorded this call and it will be posted on our website by tomorrow. So you can revisit it or feel free to share it with others. And again, please feel free to email me if you have any questions at all, and I'd be happy to reach out. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining, and we hope to see your application roll in.